somewhere right now, a phone is ringing on a desk you have never seen. Someone is going to pick it up. They will be friendly. They will laugh once. They will sound to anyone listening like an old colleague catching up with another old colleague, because that is what they are. And in the 30 to 90 seconds that follow, they will quietly decide whether you get the job, the promotion, the partnership, the opportunity, the introduction, the next chapter of your professional life. You will never hear that conversation. You will never know it happened. You will not be told what was said. There will be no transcript, no notification, no signal. If the answer goes against you, you will simply receive, days later, a polite email about how the team has decided to move forward with a different candidate. The polite email will not mention the phone call. The polite email is not where the decision was made. The polite email is where the decision was packaged. Now, here is what nobody has ever told you about the structure of your career. You think your career is a sequence of jobs. You experience your departures as endings. Each new role feels like a fresh start, a new page, a clean chapter. The people who hire you do not see it that way. To them, your career is a single continuous reputation, scored across decades in conversations you never hear. The interview is the part you participate in. The reference call is the part that actually decides. Tonight, you are going to learn what is actually said in those calls, why the rules around them have made them stranger than you imagine, and how a person who understands the architecture of professional reputation lives a completely different career to a person who does not. Reference calls are governed, in most major economies, by one strange rule. The legal exposure of giving a negative reference is so high that companies, almost universally, have adopted a defensive policy. They will confirm three things only: your name, your role, the dates you worked there. Anything beyond that risks a defamation claim, and the company's legal team has made clear that the risk is not worth it. This policy was designed to protect employees. In practice, it has done something far stranger. It has created a system of encoded language in which what is not said is the message. Listen to it correctly, and the silence is deafening. A former manager who responds to a reference call with, "I can only confirm that she worked here from 2019 to 2024, is communicating a verdict in code without legal exposure. The hiring manager on the other end has heard this code 100 times. They know exactly what they have just been told. They do not push for more. They thank the manager politely. They hang up, and they call the backup candidate. That is the first layer. The second is that the restriction created an entirely separate channel. Because the official references can say so little, the people who hire seriously do not rely on them. They call other people. People you did not list. Someone they happen to know at your old company. A friend of a friend in the industry. A senior leader who never managed you directly, but was once in the same building. The hiring system has its own reference graph, running underneath the one you authorized, and the people on it have no legal restriction. They were not asked by you to give a reference. They are simply being asked casually what they thought of you. This is the call that actually decides. And you are not on its list. Now add the third layer, and the picture begins to settle. The The sociologist Robert Jackal, who spent years inside large corporate bureaucracies, identified a principle that he called the appearance economy. Every action in a corporation is structured to look innocent in isolation, even when its aggregate function is consequential. When you apply that principle to information about you, something cold becomes visible. Each individual reference call is just a chat. Each back-channel inquiry is just a friend asking a question. Each careful pause from a former manager is just professional courtesy. None of these things in isolation looks like a decision being made. But the aggregate of them, the dozen small conversations a hiring committee has about you before they ever say yes or no, is the decision. Not in metaphor. In fact, the committee meeting where they vote is the place the verdict surfaces, not the place it was made. And here is the part that should change how you think about your professional life forever. This system is not new. The corporation did not invent it. Your industry did not design it. It is older than your industry. It is older than corporations. It is older than the language we use to describe it. To see what it actually is, you have to step out of the office and look at one of the most important things our species has ever evolved. The evolutionary psychologist William von Hippel argues that one of the most important innovations in human history was not stone tools, not fire, not even agriculture. It was gossip. Here is what gossip actually did. For most of human evolution, your ancestors lived in small bands where everyone knew everyone face to face. Trust, cooperation, and reputation were all maintained by direct observation. You could see who shared and who hoarded. You could see who could be relied on in a hunt and who could not. Reputation was visible, and visibility kept the system honest. Then something changed. Bands grew slightly larger. Trade emerged between groups. People began to encounter strangers, individuals whose reliability they could not personally verify. The face-to-face reputation system, which had worked for hundreds of thousands of years, had run out of capacity. And then language did something extraordinary. It let reputation travel without the person. A stranger could arrive at a new fire, and someone there might already know, through a chain of conversation between distant fires, whether this person was generous or selfish, trustworthy or untrustworthy. The information had crossed distances the person had not. Cooperation could now scale beyond the people you could personally watch. Civilization, in some real sense, became possible the moment reputation outran its owner. This was not a moral failing. Gossip is one of the most beautifully evolved social technology our species ever built. Without it, the entire scaffolding of modern cooperative life, trade, alliance, marriage between distant groups could not exist. Now look at your industry. The anthropologist Robin Dunbar's research on social networks has shown that even modern industries, however large they appear from the outside, behave structurally like small villages from the inside. The senior decision makers in any sufficiently mature field, banking, consulting, law, engineering, design, journalism, technology, form what the network scientists call a small world. The number of people who could be called about you by anyone hiring at your level is rarely larger than a few hundred. Most of them know each other. Many of them speak to each other regularly. And every single one of them is a node on which your reputation can travel. Which means that the ancestral village fire has not gone away. It has only changed mediums. The fire is now a phone call. The conversation is now 30 seconds long. The information is now, how was she to work with, instead of, did he share his meat fairly? But the system is the same system, and the instinct running it is the same instinct that kept your ancestors alive for 1.5 million years. Your reputation does not live with you. It lives in the network. You are merely the current visitor to your own name. Now go inside the call. Slowly, with everything you now know. The hiring manager picks up the phone. They have a list of questions. They will not read them out loud, because reading them out loud sounds clinical and shuts the conversation down. They will weave the questions into what sounds like an old colleague checking in. They will start warm. They will mention something pleasant. Then they will ask the first encoded question. It will sound like, so how was she to work with? What they are actually asking is, do you have anything that would make me hesitate to hire her? They are not asking for praise. They are listening for the absence of caveats. A warm, immediate, specific answer, she was excellent, especially under pressure on the Q3 launch, is positive. A polite, generic, slightly delayed answer, you know, she worked hard, certainly, is, in the language of the call, a no. Then they will ask the second, encoded question. Some version of, would you hire her again? The right answer to a reference call is an immediate, slightly amused absolutely. The wrong answer is a pause. Any pause, a pause of even a second, is a complete sentence in this conversation. The hiring manager hears it. They have heard it before. They know what it means. Then they will ask the third question, the one that everyone uses and almost nobody recognizes. Is there anything I should know? They are not fishing for gossip. They are giving the former manager an exit ramp, a chance to mention without legal exposure a single concern. If the former manager says, no, nothing comes to mind, the call goes well. If the former manager says, well, you know, this is just my perspective, but the call is over. Everything after that sentence is decorative. And then, after they hang up with your listed reference, they make the other call. The one you did not authorize. A peer of yours from 2 roles ago. A colleague who sat across from you for 2 years and whose opinion you have never asked for. A senior person at your old company who barely interacted with you, but who happens to know the hiring manager from a different context. This is the call where the legal restriction does not apply. This is the call where the real conversation happens. This is the call you will never know took place. And the person on the other end, the one being asked about you, has no script. They will answer with whatever they remember. What they remember is shaped not by your CV, but by how you treated them, what you said about others in front of them, whether you were generous or stingy in moments that you did not realize were being observed, whether you took credit or shared it on the project they sat next to you on, and whether you exited with grace or whether you burned a bridge in your last week. That memory is the call. That memory is the verdict. That memory has been forming for years, in moments you did not notice at the time, and it is now being delivered in 30 seconds in a conversation that is shaping your next chapter while you are at your new desk completely unaware. So let us give it the name it was never given. The list you authorized. The list you didn't. The encoded silences. The pauses that are sentences. The peer 2 roles ago, who is now somewhere being asked about you. All of it together as one quiet, continuous parallel career. The shadow reference. The unauthorized, unrecorded, unanswerable conversation about a professional that runs alongside their official career, governed by instincts older than the industry it shapes, and capable of deciding outcomes the professional will never know it touched. Sit with the word shadow because it is precise. A shadow is attached to you. You cannot remove it. You cannot deny it. It moves with you wherever you go. And in the right light, it is exactly the same shape and size as the body that casts it. The shadow reference is not a separate career running in some distant world. It is your own career, projected onto a wall you cannot see, by a light source you do not control. It is yours. It has always been yours. You simply have been walking around in it for years without knowing it was there. And the moment you can name it, the architecture of your professional life changes shape entirely. Because every professional has both careers running. The one they curate, the CV, the LinkedIn, the interview. And the one their colleagues quietly write about them. Every day, in moments those colleagues will be asked to remember years later. Most people invest their entire energy in the first. The second is the one that actually decides. Tonight, you stop being someone running only one of those careers. Here is what changes the moment you can see your shadow career. 5 things, and each one is a small, durable, long-horizon investment that, compounded over decades, quietly reorganizes everything. The first thing you change is how you exit. Most professionals invest enormous energy in their entries to companies. The interviews, the first 90 days, the careful impression management of arrival. And then they exit on autopilot. They mentally check out. They are sloppy in their last weeks. They sometimes burn the small bridges they think they no longer need. The exits feel like endings, and endings feel like a moment when investment no longer matters. The shadow reference is showing you the opposite. The exit is, in raw career terms, the larger investment. The way you leave a company is what the people in that company will remember when they are asked about you 5, 10, 15 years from now. A clean, generous, well-handed-over exit is a deposit into the shadow reference that compounds for the rest of your career. A messy, resentful, score-settling exit is a withdrawal that may not surface for years and may surface in the worst possible call, at the worst possible moment, with no way to undo. From this episode on, you give your exits the energy you used to give your entries. Maybe more. The second thing you change is who you invest in. Your formal reference list is the small handful of people you have cleared, people who have agreed in advance to speak well of you. The shadow reference is everyone else who could be called. The peer 2 desks over. The junior who reported to you for 6 months 3 years ago. The senior leader you barely worked with, but who saw how you behaved at the offsite. None of them is on your list. All of them could be called. So the strategic question is no longer, who are my references? It is the much larger and longer horizon question, which people in this building, if asked about me 5 years from now, would describe me well. And then, quietly, without performance, without ulterior motive, You begin to be the kind of person all of them would describe well. Not for them, for yourself. The benefit is structural, not transactional. The third thing you change is what you stop wasting energy on. Most workplace conflict feels enormous in the moment and travels almost nothing in the long run. The senior who once humiliated you in a meeting. In 10 years, the colleague describing you will not be remembering that meeting. They will be remembering whether you stayed composed in it. The peer who once took credit for your work. In the shadow reference, the credit taker's reputation moves more than yours does. Specific conflicts evaporate. Specific behaviors travel. From this episode on, you stop spending your energy on the things that evaporate, and you start being quietly diligent about the things that travel. Reliability travels. Generosity to subordinates travels. Composure under pressure travels. Ease to work with travels. Stinginess with credit travels. Score settling in your final week travels. The list is short, the list is knowable, and the list is the entire game. The fourth thing you change is who you are performing for. Until tonight, you have been performing like most professionals for one audience, your immediate manager. That audience has felt total. It has shaped your behavior. It has decided what work you took, what risks you avoided, what relationships you invested in. The shadow reference is much, much larger than your manager. It includes every person who has ever observed you at work for any meaningful period of time, and who might, one day, be asked. That is not your manager's audience. That is everyone's audience. And once you can see it, the entire architecture of your daily behavior quietly shifts. You stop performing for the boss. You start in a deeper and more durable way, being the kind of professional that anyone, asked anything, would describe well. Not as a strategy, as a quiet, long-horizon investment that just happens to compound. And the fifth thing you change is the largest. You inherit a different time horizon. Most professionals live their careers in quarters. The current project, the current cycle, the current appraisal, the current quarter. Once you can see the shadow reference, your career compresses on one axis and expands enormously on another. The current project shrinks. The next 20 years extends, visibly in front of you. The way you treat the junior who annoyed you this morning is a small entry in a long ledger. The way you share credit in this Friday's meeting is a small deposit. The way you handle yourself in a meeting where you were wronged is a small deposit. None of these moments matter in the quarter. All of them matter in the ledger. And the ledger is what is read aloud on a phone call you will not hear, in a year you cannot yet name. Most professionals never realize they have a parallel career, running in conversations they never hear. They build the visible one with enormous effort, ignore the shadow one entirely, and only discover the shadow exists at the moment it has already decided something they cannot undo. They reach the end of long careers wondering, vaguely, why some opportunities found them and others did not, never quite seeing the architecture that was always making the decision in the background. That is the large group. That is most of the professionals who have ever lived inside a mature industry. You are not in that group anymore. As of tonight, you are in a much smaller one, the people who can see their own shadow walking beside them. And once you can see it, Every small choice this week is no longer just a choice. It is a deposit into a ledger that quietly compounds for a career that suddenly extends much further than the next appraisal. You have always had two careers. Tonight, you start running both. Next time, you finally decide to leave. You walk into your manager's cabin holding the letter. You expect a difficult conversation. Instead, something unexpected happens. They are not surprised. They are not upset. They smile. They ask you to wait a moment. They say they were already thinking about a few things for you. They ask what it would take. 48 hours later, you have a counteroffer. More money. A bigger title. A direct line to leadership. The exact opportunity you have been quietly waiting for years. You think you have one. You have just walked into the most carefully engineered trap in modern corporate life. The data is clear. Most professionals who accept counteroffers leave within 12 months anyway, often on terms much worse than the ones they were originally trying to escape. There is a name for what just happened. There is a reason it works. That episode is next.